What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are here to take a look at Thursday's injury report for the Lions and Vikings game. Plus, we have some notes from some Lions coaches. That includes Anthony Lynn, Aaron Glenn. Man, they gave us some good insight today. So let's get it started.
Way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome, everybody, to our video. Glad you guys are here. Today is an action-packed day, man. We got this injury report to get into. Then we got our live stream for Last Second Dose with my man Rad. We're going to be taking a look at that Rams-Seahawks game. We're going to be talking some Lions. And we already did our all-22 look at that Lions and Bears game. So if you guys want to check it out, you can. It should be up now. We may dive into that again, but I just wanted to put that out today. So there's a lot going on today. However, we're back with the injury report, and man, we got some good notes here from some coaches that I definitely want to share with you guys. Plus, we have some updates with health, very big names as well that we have to take a look at today to see if whether or not they will play on Sunday. And I feel like Thursday is arguably the most normal practice. I mean, it feels like Thursday is probably the closest thing to normal that you have during the week, because Friday could be a little bit short and it's the last day. Wednesday, like the Lions yesterday, they didn't seem to practice the entire time. It was more of a teaching day. So Thursday could be the most normal practice. I just thought I would point that out. But let's take a look at the Vikings side of the injury report first, and then we'll get into our Lions. We started off with the Vikings yesterday, so let's just keep it that way. Let's find some consistency. The Lions need consistency. Let us find some consistency. Let's take a look at the Vikings side of the injury report. As you can see, there's really not a lot of major changes here. They maybe participated more today or participated less today. There's really not a lot of major changes into that category. The top left, like the small one, that's yesterday, so if you want to compare them. But the only major change we have is at the bottom, and that's with Nick Vigil, who did not participate yesterday with the ankle injury. He's now back to full participation. Now, the idea is that Anthony Barr could be making his debut against the Detroit Lions, and they haven't seen that guy in a long time. Nick Vigil stepped in and basically played a lot of that role when he was out. We know now it's a lot of stuff is sub packages, so a lot of times you only need 2 linebackers on the field. And Vigil, who did not participate yesterday, now is here with full participation. So that's a big improvement for him. That's for sure to get back to it. And there's going to possibly be some decision making on who the snaps are going to go to. So if you slide up to the top real quick, we know that Anthony Barr, back-to-back days now, full participation. Looks like he's going to make his debut. But I've heard today he's played 6 quarters in about 31 months. That's nuts. What? So this dude hasn't played that much at all. And even the Vikings fans say, man, they're excited to have him back, but they don't really know what they're going to get from this guy because it's been so long since they've really consistently seen him on the field. Now, we know about Anthony Barr. We play this team 2 times a year. We know about a lot of these front 7 players. Interesting to see where the snap goes. They also have Blake Lynch, who played the most snaps that he's played this season last week against the Cleveland Browns. He has 13 combined tackles on the season. They got good linebackers. It's a really solid front 7. This past offseason, they invested in the D-line. They got guys back off of COVID. The linebacker group is always pretty solid and deep with Troy Dye. So, I mean, it's just deep. And now it looks like they may have to make some decisions on who the snap goes to. Betting on this, I would bet that Anthony Barr probably gets the bulk of the snaps. We'll see. But back-to-back day of full participation is definitely good for him. Continuing down, like I said, a lot of things have stayed the same. Bashaud Breeland working back from that illness that kept him out of Sunday's game against the Cleveland Browns. Full participation once again. Chris Boyd for some depth. Same thing with Cameron Bynum. Delvin Cook, that's another big one. And we heard yesterday he said that, he's not 100%. But he does plan to play through the pain. For him right now, it's trying to figure out that balancing act of, hey, if I'm not on the field, I'm going to be frustrated because I'm not out there. But if I also am out there and I'm not 100%, how much can I do? Because I may not have the same explosiveness.
In and out of the lineup, I came up at one time. It's part of the game. I'm not 100% yet. I'm still working to be back to where I need to be at. Had a little hiccup right there, but it settled down. I got myself back together. And, whenever my number was called, I was ready to go.
Is this something you can keep playing through and get back to 100%, you think?
That's the plan. I don't feel like I'm getting worse. I don't feel like I'm, headed in the wrong direction. I feel like I'm headed in the right direction to get myself back to where I need to be at.
Last week, we saw the Minnesota Vikings, who struggled to run the football against Cleveland Browns. We saw them mix in and give Alexander Mattison a lot of snaps last week. He had 10 carries for only 20 yards, in comparison to Delvin Cook, who had 9 carries for 34 yards. Look, we know what Dalvin Cook is. So far in the season, even with that stat line, he's averaging 4.4 yards a pop. We know how good and explosive Dalvin Cook is. The coaching staff has said that, we trust the guys behind him, like an Alexander Mattison. I know a lot of fans want to see the Minnesota Vikings rest him this week. They maybe get a little confident that they can beat us. That's going to be some easy game. Okay, all right. But no, they do want him to rest to make sure he's all right. They do like Alexander Mattison. Of course, they got that man Fear Amir. Back-to-back no participation days is not really a good sign. Now, the reports that I've heard is that he was taking a couple of handoffs from Kirk Cousins, so I'm not really sure how he's listed with no participation. So maybe he just didn't go through the team activities. He was just kind of taking snaps off to the side. I'm assuming that's what was going on. So he's trying to test out to see where he's at. I think we will see Dalvin Cook on Sunday. I just think we may see him in limited fashion. So we'll see how healthy he is when it comes down to Sunday. But I think Friday for him is going to be big just to see if we get any news about, hey, he's improving. He took, and he played limited just to see where he's at. If it's, again, no participation, I still wouldn't count him out, but I would bet that it's a pretty limited role that we see for him on Sunday. So that's a big one to keep an eye on. That's for sure. Michael Pierce. Yesterday, no participation. It sounded like the coaching staff was kind of prepared to not have him, maybe even for a little while. And again, no participation today makes you think that, yeah, he's probably not going to play on Sunday. But he was out there on the field today stretching. But after he stretched, he just went back into, the team's facility, I'm guessing, to get treatment. So he didn't really go through drills, anything like that, but he was out there stretching, which I guess is a good sign for Michael Pierce. Again, you can't count the dude out. He is a stud. Listening to the Vikings coaching staff saying that they, trust Armon Watts, who stepped in the second half specifically, played 56% of their snaps last week against Cleveland, played a pretty good game. The guy had 6 combined tackles, and he only played about half the snaps defensively. They do trust James Lynch to possibly step in there and take some snaps as well. I mean, we talked about the idea of moving out like Dalvin Tomlinson inside the role that Michael Pierce will be playing if he's not out there. So I'm not going to say it sounds like he's going to play this week. Friday's another important day for him, but that kind of sounds like how they're going to have that defensive line flowing if he's not out there, which is a big loss for them. It was a big addition during the COVID year. So this would be a big loss if he is not out there for a run defense that's already struggled. But defensive end wise, yeah, they're good to go there. And their linebackers are getting healthy, so to me, it reminds me a lot of last week. I feel like this division has a lot of similarities. We have good front sevens, and that's what the Bears had, and I think that's what the Vikings had. It's just kind of Mike Zimmer's staple to have that, running that 4-3 defense. So, yep, we know what to expect this week. We do, and we know what to expect offensively. Play action, run the football. So those are 2 big names because they're 2 big pieces of 2 big parts of their team. Pretty much everything has stayed the same aside from that. I mean, every single thing has stayed the same. So really no big changes. Take a look at the Lions side of the injury report. Theirs is a little bit smaller. We know we have a lot of guys on IR now. Someone said 12-12. Yikes. But we do have some good news today, okay? There was one change on our injury report today, and that was TJ Hockenson, who went from no participation yesterday to limited participation today. That's big. Obviously, that's huge. And we went back, we watched the film. It wasn't his best game, especially blocking. That needs to be better in this game. But you can see the attention that TJ Hockenson draws. He was not great at getting open against cornerbacks on the outside, against some of those secondary players in man coverage. We just watched the film if you guys want to check it out. But he does draw a lot of attention. And even on that strip sack fumble to Quintez Cephas, where the ball was going to go because Goff was throwing it, it drew a lot of attention. TJ Hockenson took 2 defenders with him, and it pretty much opened up that route. Hockenson, even when he's not getting the ball, can open up things just with his presence, and he can draw double teams with your eyes. So Hockenson's a big part. Not even to just say, hey, here's what he's going to do receiving. It's just to have him on the field to know that the defense has to worry about that. Because ever since he broke out the very start of the season, now teams know what he's capable of if you leave him in too many one-on-ones. And if you don't slide guys to him, he's going to win his one-on-ones. So Hockenson getting back is huge. Sewell, no participation again, a good thing. Some of the headlines have not been super encouraging as to maybe Penei Sewell playing this weekend. Anthony Lynn was asked about the situation of Penei Sewell and if he can't play at left tackle, what they're going to do there. And he seemed to kind of have out hope that, yeah, Penei Sewell hopefully can still play. Now, I don't know for sure if these pressers came out before or after practice. I'm not super sure on that. But he seems like he's still holding out hope that Penei Sewell is going to be able to play this week. But he also said, look, the week is too short. You can't experiment with, hey, what works at left tackle? We know what our backup option is. We know what we're going to do if he can't play. But we are hoping that Penei Sewell can play. Is not a good step in the right direction. So they do have a backup option. We know they do. But he didn't really go into what that is. Maybe for just reasons of he doesn't want the other team to know what it is until it's game time. But he just would not answer that question. Clearly, they were trying to get him, hey, so what are we doing at left tackle? Is it Will Holden? Is it Big Vita left tackle? Right guard Logan Stenberg? What is that option if he's not there? And he wouldn't say. So I'm not sure what it is. The second one actually I think might work better, but we'll see what it is. I don't know what the option is for the Detroit Lions if he can't play. But of course, this is not good news to have him out. It's not that he played great last week. but he is a player that you want to see on the field because he can help you, especially as a run blocker. That way you don't have to move around other pieces. But it seems like Anthony Lynn's not counting out that he can play in Sunday, but it's just not good news. Michael Brocker's still here. I think that's just kind of a staple. Maybe it's stuck there. Maybe they just forgot to delete it. And they're like, hey, it's stuck. We can't delete it. We're just going to leave it every single week. Okay, that's fine. Trey Flowers, limited participation again. Okay, that's the first thing I looked at. Did he practice again? Today he was wearing that big right knee brace. I wouldn't be shocked if he's wearing that in this game. Are the Lions going to trust him to play outside linebacker? What are they going to do with their fronts? Are they going to change it up if he's wearing that big knee brace? That is the question. But I would like to have him back. And Aaron Glenn talked about it a little bit, kind of saying that, Charles Harris has been balling out, and I have liked Charles Harris watching him back. And he said we got some other guys on the other side. He didn't say Trey Flowers specifically, but those guys need to step up. So hopefully we get Trey Flowers out there on the field. Austin Bryant showed some good moments. He also showed some, hey, I'm a young outside linebacker, so it's not all great. And we did get a little bit of Julian Okwara that mixed in last week. But I do hope Trey Flowers is back this week, specifically to help us against the run. I mean, I'm being honest, I just want to help us against the run, but if he can give us anything in pass rush, that'd be great too, because we need help there as well without Romeo Okwara for the rest of the season. There has been no talk about, him limiting reps or anything like that, so it's just something to kind of monitor. And finally, Jamal Williams, who still remains on this list, limited participation, but we got to hear from him today. He seemed in good spirits, as always. Anthony Lynn did talk about Jamal Williams and kind of the running back situation. He said, look, we want to get our running backs more involved, just in general, in the passing game, the run game. But he did say watching back last game's film, feels like after watching the film back, maybe he should have got more attempts to Jamal Williams. And I completely agree with that. Maybe even just not carrying the ball, but also in those passing downs, get him on the field, allow him to pass pro. And if he wants to go for a pass, let him go for a pass. He can catch the football. I would like to see them use Jamal more, especially like last game, if he is the hot hand, because watching the film back, Swift had his reps, but Jamal was the hot hand, and he ate. And they keep stressing feeding the hot hand. Anthony Lynn said they're going to go with the hot hand no matter what their game plan is coming into the week. Even though last week it was to talk about Swift, he was the hot hand, so they fed him. But they feel like they maybe should have gave him the ball a little bit more, but they also got to stop getting down, which makes them a little bit one-dimensional. About a couple of other pieces. At the receiver position, he brought up KhaDarel Hodge. They asked him about KhaDarel Hodge and what his role is. He's like, look, he's going to be out there on Sunday because he helps us a lot on special teams. They like what he's done. And we know he's done some good things as a gunner, downing the football for us a few times. He's had a couple of those good downs. So they like him on special teams. But he also said offensively, he still brought up the fact that he is still pretty new to this offense. But he's like, his role will continue to expand as he goes on, as he gets comfortable. I feel like when you watch the receiver position, we've had some questionable separation. And I just think KhaDarel Hodge can bring a lot to this team if we get to see him a little more. He had a nice catch last week where they kind of took it from him, but it was after the play. I like to see more Hodge. The size, the speed, the route running. I like KhaDarel Hodge. I like to see him more. And I think we're going to see him again. And maybe we'll just slowly see him more involved. So that is exciting, at least for me, because I want to see him. Anthony Lynn did say that we have a pretty good feel right now of what we do well and what we don't do well 4 weeks into the season. So, they're going to do those things that they do well and work on the things that they don't do well. He says we have a pretty good feel of that now, looking back at kind of the first quarter of the season, even though now it's 17 games. This used to be the first quarter of the season. So I am excited. Just the way that he said it made me excited about that he feels like he has a better feel of what this offense does well, what the players' strengths are. And he also talked about Jared Goff specifically. This is probably part of it. He said one thing we've noticed with Jared Goff is that when you get him outside the pocket, you get him on the move, he makes things happen. And we saw this with the Rams. The guy has kind of underrated arm angles. Like some of the ways that he can throw the football like this, and kind of just flick it out there. Not necessarily all the sidearm stuff like Stafford used to do, but he does have some arm angles he can throw across his body, like open himself up and fire it. Does seem pretty comfortable in this situation. While he's not the most athletic quarterback, Anthony Lynn did say he seems to make things happen when he's on the move, when he's outside of the pocket. So you may see more of that. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it if we see more of that this week. But we did see some good plays of that last week. Defensively, Aaron Glenn gave us some notes on what they need to work on defensively. He said, first off, second down defense has to be better. We're really good on third down. We're the second best team on third down if you go by percentages of allowed. He's like, if you'd have told me we'd be second best on third down defense, I wouldn't think we'd be 0-4. But he did say that we have to limit those big plays and our second down defense has to be better. It's not really a communication thing at this point. It's just young guys and executing. We have some mistakes with the young guys. And Dan Campbell said after the Bears game, some of these young guys, they are making the same mistakes, and we can't do that. We have to learn from it. Aaron Glenn used the analogy, how many times does a skunk have to hit you in the face before you smell it? Okay, that's never heard that one before, but I like it. Interestingly, Aaron Glenn said he likes to compare players to other players when he brings them in. With Jerry Jacobs, he says, Jerry Jacobs reminded me a lot of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. We know he was with the Saints, that played slick, that played nickel, also played on the outside, played a little bit of safety as well. Just a versatile player. He said size-wise, got a lot of similarities, about 5 pounds lighter, same height, so same build. And then when we brought him in, we saw him throughout training camp, just the competitiveness that he had. He said he reminds him a lot of a guy like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Now, he's not Chauncey Gardner-Johnson now, but he does think that maybe he can develop into a player like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But he says he does that with other guys. He had a comparison for Bobby Price. And he was talking about, hey, look, when we look at Bobby Price film, if he gets his hands on you, it's a wrap. And we saw that looking at the film today. You know, he pressed the guy at line of scrimmage, and he threw him completely off his route on a little curl route, and a pass when incomplete threw off the timing. He's had some issues, but at the same time, we do know that, you know, it's a new cornerback spot. It's just a tough spot to be. It's a really tough spot to be. But he does have these comparisons. I'm excited to see Jacobs this week, and he's like, look, the only way that you're going to know if these guys are ready is that you have to give them a shot. You have to give him a chance. Campbell said he deserves a shot. He said we're going to see more Jerry Jacobs because when we put him in last week, he did well, even though there really wasn't a ton to look at in terms of pass coverage. So they're going to see more Jerry this week. And he's like, we still will see some Bobby Price. So we'll see how they utilize them both. I'm assuming in like sub packages, we'll see possibly both cornerbacks on the field. And maybe we'll get some Jacobs in the slot as well. That was one thing that he can do that I thought was interesting when it came down to cut time is like, hey, you know, this guy can also play slot too. Like, he's done that. That's not something that's new to him. So if you need him to push inside, you could utilize him in that way. Excited to see him this weekend. The competitiveness that he brought up about it, I'm just excited to see it. I think he may make a big play for us in this game. He said there will be mistakes. We know that. There will. He's a young player. Bring up the focus of building his defense. And I mean, this is kind of something that you could talk about in the offseason, but he did say, you know, my vision is you build through the trenches. I mean, we've heard that. You know, you build from the defensive line out. They're not the flashy picks, the Levi's, the Aleem McNeils, but we got to get the stops on first down. We get stops on first down, we get you a second and long, then it's an obvious passing down. We have to get stops on first down. We have to stop the run first. So that has been, you know, the focus, and that's kind of the mentality they play with. I even saw last week, after the first drive, watching the film back, like their run defense was much better. He brought up some of the key issues there because the defensive line was actually pretty solid. Specifically, Brockers was killing it. McNeil played a good game. He brought up some of the missed tackles. Leakage is what he called it. When he tackled a guy, but he still picks up 3 yards after he hit him. We saw that on a couple of those goal line runs where you hit him, but then he keeps like running you into the end zone. He said we got to clean it up. We got to be hitting guys and just smacking guys, basically. You know, we cannot be allowing them to run after they take a hit. He did say with some of the missed tackles and tackle leakage, that will stop because the players that they have, you know, they have very, very competitive and aggressive players that are going to hit. And it's actually funny because up till this last week, you know, with some of the tackle leakage, things like that, Lions were one of the lowest teams in football in terms of missed tackles. You know, it's a statistic. Tackle leakage doesn't show up. I've never even heard tackle leakage before. I get what he's saying. I've never heard it called that before. But yeah, the Lions are one of the top teams in football in missed tackles. So I actually believe Aaron Glenn when he says this. Some of those defensive backs, those guys, they got to help us set the edge as well. We got to do a little bit better at setting the edge. We got young guys out there. So this will be interesting this week. I'm excited for it, but this is your injury report. There's really not a ton of changes to the injury report for either side. So I really want to talk about what the coaches said today because those two I thought gave us some really interesting insight of what we could see from the offense going forward a little bit. And Aaron Glenn and, you know, just obviously his philosophy defensively. But even aside from that, just that Jerry Jacobs, you know, the snaps that he's going to get this week, the excitement there. So tomorrow's the final injury report, and we will be live soon to take a look at this Rams-Seahawks game and talk some Lions for the last second dose. So make sure you stop in. Thank you, Pat, for watching, and I'm out.